Now, the economic freedom fighters have taken over the position of Speaker in the city of Ekurhuleni. The council voted for Nthabiseng Tshivhenga as the new Speaker of Council. Earlier, Ekurhuleni Chief Whip Khetha Shandu resigned ahead of a council meeting where a motion of no confidence against him and the Speaker was tabled. The Speaker's removal could spell another motion of no confidence in the City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Tania Campbell. The ANC and EFF are expected to vote together to relax a standing order which limits the number of no confidence motions within a set period. Earlier this week, the High Court halted a council meeting which had been convened by the city manager. This after Speaker Raymond Dlamini approached the court arguing that the sitting was unlawful because he had not been consulted. The city manager convened the sitting following a request from minority parties represented in council. They had filed a no confidence motion in the Speaker, which was meant to be heard last week, Thursday. However, the meeting collapsed when a fight between members broke out inside council chambers. For the latest on this developing story, let's speak now to SABC reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa, who's in Germiston in Ekurhuleni. Mbalenhle, so just take us through what has happened over the past couple of hours and why this is important.
Certainly, Nthabiseng. What you saw happening inside council is what some might say is history in the making and unfolding inside these council chambers here in Germiston. We saw council members invoking Section 21A of the Municipal Act in the City of Ekurhuleni, where they then called on the city manager to come and preside over the council meeting in order to continue with the business of the day. You will remember that earlier on today they had accused the Speaker of Council, Raymond Dlamini, of delaying proceedings. He was facing a no confidence motion. He then adjourned the meeting immediately after council members had requested that he recuse himself and for the chair of chairs to then take over his responsibilities. After that, we saw council members writing to the city manager, and then after the quorum had been confirmed by the council speaker, we saw them elect a new council speaker and continue with the business of the day. Well, it's unclear. We do understand that there were a couple of motions that were communicated and tabled and debated before the extraordinary council sitting that was chaired by the new council speaker, but we're not sure what exactly has transpired and the legal implications surrounding this. I'm joined by a number of guests who are just going to give us a better sense of what transpired inside. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Nkululeko Dunga. We saw you really just acting like the mastermind, really, and asking members to sit down and the rest, as they say, is history. Talk to us about the legalities of what has happened today.
Yeah, well, look, we are of the firm belief that this is unprecedented, but the law in itself allows for the testing of the law. And we're hoping that even with the previous interdict that the Speaker had received against the City Council, it was not based on the process but rather on the timing in itself. So we are sure that legally everything is sound. Yes, we did invoke Section 29(1)A because we wrote to the Speaker, in actual fact, sometime during the week to request that he reconvene a meeting. Subject to the to what we have written to him, we gave him a time and a place and a date that meeting should convene. He refused to actually convene the meeting, which then invoked us to actually write to the city manager. And that invoking actually happened when he deliberately collapsed council this evening. We were aware, as hence we kept on referring to our councillors to actually calm down and tone down because he was looking for any reason, irrationally so, to actually collapse the sitting. We know this, and we also know that he was not prepared for this council sitting because IEC was not prepared to actually come through and engage. Consistently, he kept on telling us that the motions that are tabled before council, which he approved, by the way, through a notice and through the agenda coming out, that they are inadmissible. Now, that means that he takes a unilateral decision in his own home and wherever he sits, along the Gogo Helen Zil and so forth, and comes to a determination in terms of how council should operate in its agenda, which is not the correct process to actually undertake. And consistently, when we engage members of the DA, they keep referring to us that they don't mind actually the tabling of these particular motions to take place, but in actual fact that they be tabled in February, and they are consistent in their approach. So the only question that we can ask as the EFF and as council and society, what is it so much that compels them to actually want to retain power up until February? What is it that they want to do? Do they want to engage in the collapse of the city like they did in the city of Tshwane? Is that the ultimate reason, knowing that they will not be back here and actually running administration? That can be our only conclusion.
And is the speaker still the Speaker of Council? I mean, has he been removed? We saw a motion of no confidence. Has that been passed?
Unanimously, Council that has actually met its quorum elected the acting Speaker of the Economic Freedom Fighters, and this was duly supported by the ANC caucus, and that is fighter Nthabiseng Tshivhenga.
We saw you presiding over today, the Extraordinary Council. What has been the outcome of today's council?
Well, the outcome of today's council was based on two issues. The issue was we had motions that were brought in obviously by council members, and items that were obviously on the executive could not be dealt with because the executive mayor and her executive were not in council to deal with those items. We also had items of the legislature that needed to be deferred to the next council meeting due to the length of this meeting. We've been here since 1300 hours. The motions that we have presided on were obviously the motion of no confidence against the Speaker. We had the motion of no confidence against the Whip of Council who had resigned prior to this. We also had two other motions that included a motion without notice that was carried by Council.
What exactly is a motion without notice?
The motion without notice that was tabled and agreed upon and carried by Council is a motion of no confidence on the Executive Mayor. So there is a motion of no confidence against the Executive Mayor that will also be dealt with in the next 7 days. Council itself unanimously requested that we reconvene an extraordinary council meeting in the next 7 days so that we are able to deal with those issues of motions before we deal with the actual scheduled council agenda, which is very cumbersome and include a lot of issues. Thank you.
Certainly, we've heard that one of the standing orders, which limits the number of motions of no confidence, has also been debated and discussed, and there's a motion of no confidence on the table in the sitting mayor. Your thoughts on this?
Well, we must start by expressing appreciation to all the political parties in council, especially the like-minded, for their resilience and patience, because we have tried by all means to convince the Speaker of Council that the motions were actually admissible, in that which he did by himself, he took a decision outside the programming committee itself. In fact, we went to an extent of having another engagement with him, myself being elected as the acting Chief Whip of Council, to try and find a middle ground for him to give confidence into the council that indeed the motions were going to be tabled. And I think we must put it on record that the will of the majority must prevail, and that we have advised the Speaker on numerous occasions that the decision on his part are not absolute. They must be objective and they must appreciate the sentiment of the majority of the party. So we strongly believe that that which has happened today, it will be above board. And of course, it is within their legal right to go and challenge it in court. Surely we will have to respond to it. Safe to say that the overall intention was really to save the city from the dire situation and the poor political governance led by the Democratic Alliance and their coalition.
Okay. There you have it. That is both ANC and EFF representatives really just speaking in one voice, talking about service delivery, and also just confirming that there is a motion of no confidence in the mayor in the city of Ekurhuleni, Tania Campbell, that is on the agenda for the next sitting, which will be convened within 7 days. It's back to you in studio.